Well, even though we are watching pro football, baseball is in the news this weekend. Jack Morris, the free agent who could not get an offer from the New York Yankees or any other team that he hoped to play for, reluctantly agreed last night to stay with the Detroit Tigers. Now, the latest Tiger offer was a 2-year contract at $1.25 million a year. That salary dispute now goes to arbitration. Earlier today, Morris talked to reporters about his decision to stay with the Tigers.
It was very loud and clear to me that no other club would offer me any more money than the Detroit Tigers have offered me.
You feel bitter?
I don't think bitter is a good word to use. I think there's some foul play. I think I've learned that some people are shameless.
Now, the cold shoulder Morris got from other teams has raised the question about collusion amongst owners to prevent free agents from negotiating deals with teams they did not play for the previous year. We have not seen the last of this Morris controversy, and it could lead to a legal fight. Coming up next this afternoon on CBS, an excellent college basketball game for this early in the year. 5th-ranked Illinois against 4th-ranked North Carolina. It'll be out of North Carolina, so let's go down to Chapel Hill. Billy Packer. Billy, you've been following the Tar Heels. Were they overrated at the start of the year? What about this team getting all the way to the Final Four in New Orleans?
Well, Brent, I don't know if they're overrated. I think this is going to be an excellent basketball team. As a matter of fact, I think it has the best personnel of any team in the United States. But there is that blend of youth and age here that I think is going to take some time to put together. You've got Kenny Smith, of course, an All-American ball player. One of the best point guards that's come along in a long time, and J.R. Reed. And without question, J.R. will be of All-American caliber. But it seems that Dean Smith is taking this team very slowly this year. And I believe it's going to be mid-January, maybe even early February, before we see the real University of North Carolina club.
Meanwhile, the Big Ten loaded with quality teams. How about that conference in Illinois, Billy?
Well, I would imagine everybody would be in agreement. The Big Ten is the best conference this year in college basketball. You can see right off the bat Purdue and Iowa and Illinois in the top 5, followed by Indiana coming in there at number 8 position. I don't think there's any question that they have the best depth. And one of the reasons for that, Brent, is the fact that they have seniors in that league with good experience and great ability. And those seniors did not go on to the pros early. Steve Alford stays, Dennis Hobson stayed, and of course Ken Norman, who we'll see today, stayed and waited for their senior year, and I think that's very helpful to a league.
All right, Billy, should be an excellent game. We look forward to that after the football game. Coming up next, Don Shula and Dan Rooney on the subject of instant replay right after these messages from your local stations.
Tomorrow on CBS Sports, it's doubleheader action, starting with the NFL today. Then it's the Washington Redskins, armed with sack specialist Dexter Manley, tangling with Buddy's boys, the Philadelphia Eagles, hot off a stunning upset of Dallas, followed by 2 teams who last year met in a bare 44-0 blowout. But now the Cowboys have a steamroller named Herschel and a shot at revenge. Tomorrow, Chicago collides with Dallas. When you look for champions in the NFL, look to CBS Sports.
This is CBS.
A new community is on the way to creation, extraordinary in concept. In New Jersey, across the Hudson from the World Trade Center. Using New Jersey Bell's advanced technology to provide community-centrics and premium resident services. This is Newport.
Just got home.
And we are New Jersey Bell. The genius behind your first look at the 21st century.
Eastern is the shuttle airline.
It's second nature to me to take the Eastern shuttle. Wouldn't think about using anybody else. I know there's lots of competition, but they're the people I just go to.
And I'm happy with it. And I don't think I'd go to any of the other airlines.
I think the Eastern shuttle has always been very efficient. It's become even more so with the improvements.
Improvements like snacks and beverages, roomier seating, and more comfortable terminals. The Eastern Air Shuttle Plus.
You've gone from a cab ride to closer to a limousine ride.
Believe me, I've seen it all, and this is the best I've ever seen. Let me tell you something. From entertainment to just taking care of you, they treat everybody like a king.
Especially if you are one.
Hey, this is a castle.
Trump's Castle, the crown jewel of Atlantic City.
Today's game sponsored locally by Tri-State Chevy Dealers.
Well, Earlier this afternoon, Will McDonough was with us on the NFL Today when we discussed the results of that CBS Sports New York Times poll on the state of pro football in 1986. The survey is based on interviews with 608 fans, and there is a sampling error of plus or minus 4 points. One of the questions we asked was about the new instant replay rule. This year, the league adopted the rule to help officials. Do you think that the rule has made the game better or worse? Will, what were the results?
Well, the results was 66% of the people polled said they thought it made the game better. And worse, only 20%, and that's really surprising.
Now, it was a two-part question, and this was the second part of it. Regarding the rule, should the NFL eliminate the use of replays entirely, use them but not as often, use them the way it has this year, or use them for more plays than this year?
Well, 47% said they'd like to use it the same, 25% use it more, eliminate 13%.
Well, we've got a couple of experts with us. Don Shula, the vice president and coach of the Miami Dolphins, and Dan Rooney, who is the president of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dan, let me start with you because I really don't think you have been sold on the instant replay rule. What would be your objections? What do you find are the problems with it?
Well, basically, Brent, I have been concerned from the beginning when it passed that it was going to have an effect on the officials particularly, that they would hesitate in making calls because someone is watching them, you know, the eye in the sky. And I think that has happened. I think that there are a number of cases this year where that they were slow in making decisions. I think that we see all these conferences on the sideline, you know, with the officials. I think that is a problem. I think that it has lengthened the game, so that I do think that it has an effect, and I think it's been an adverse effect on the field.
Don, do you agree with that? Has it been a problem on the field?
I don't agree with Dan that it has been a problem. I don't think that officials, when they make a call, stop to think as to whether or not somebody is looking over their shoulder. I think that it's going to be good. I think that there are a lot of bugs that still have to be ironed out. The replay official is a human being, and he's going to make errors just like the officials on the field make errors. And there's a question as to what's indisputable and what isn't indisputable.
Well, let me ask you this, Don, since you raised the question about indisputable. Both of you watched the monitor because this was in Don's game last week, the Los Angeles Rams, and the official ruling on the play down in the end zone was that the ball had not been caught. Now, Don, at the time, what was your perspective on the sideline?
Well, I was happy he made the call.
Now, all right, now it's changed. Was it indisputable in your mind when they came back with this replay and gave the Rams a touchdown against you?
Well, the more that we looked at it, we knew that the feet were in. There wasn't any question about that. And then you get back to a question of whether or not he had possession of the football. And they had to go back down to the official on the field and make that determination. And when they put these things together, they were able to come up with the correct call.
Yeah, Dan, shouldn't we change the calls like that if they are bad? Wouldn't the Steelers, for example, want a touchdown like that if they'd had it taken away from them?
Obviously, you want the right call, but as Don just described this thing, it shows the fallacy of it. You had to go back down on the field. Your first answer, you know, that the officials called it good, then the other official had to check it out. And, hey, the length of our games is one of the problems that we have. And I just think that, as Don mentioned earlier, that the human element comes into it. I don't think that you can take that out. And I think this idea of keep trying to check and to do one more link in the chain, I think is a problem. And I think that we had a good game. I'm not saying that we don't look to make changes and improve it, but I really have not seen that the instant replay is doing what it was supposed to do.
Well, let me show you another piece of tape, because here is an instance when I thought it was a terrible wrong, perhaps the worst of the year. Minnesota trying to get into the playoffs. They're trailing Houston at a critical point in this football game. Now, this pass is thrown, and suddenly a Houston Oiler will come out with what is ruled as an interception. Now, the ball is down there at the spot, so don't pay really any attention to the return on this. They did take it back, but the ball was given to the Houston Oilers. And I want you to watch a replay angle here that was not corrected, and I really couldn't believe it as I watched it unfold. It seems clearly indisputable to me that this ball bounces off the carpet before it was ruled an interception. Why, Don, the inconsistencies in this rule? Can we solve that part of the problem?
Well, that's the human element that I was talking about. You got the replay official, and he's going to make errors just like officials on the field make errors. But obviously the system was there to correct a bad call. It just wasn't used properly.
And Dan, you would say this is further evidence that we should vote it out in March, right?
Well, I must say that I have to go, and especially with the poll where 66% said that we should that they like it, I think that we have to consider it, and I really have to hear what Tex Schramm has to say because he's going to make a big speech, I know.
Will, did you have a question for our gentleman?
Listen, how do you think it's going to win next March when you know about 5 or 6 guys already are set up to vote against it? It's only 1-year experiment, and guys like yourself last year, Dan, just said, hey, we want to look at it for 1 year.
Well, right now, I've heard, as you know, it received 23 votes. I have heard from at least 4 that said that they were going to change their vote. So at this moment, without Tex's speech, it's going to fail.
And your prediction on that, Don, will it fail?
I think it's important right now that we all try to learn as much about it as we possibly can. We got to analyze each and every case that happened this past year, look at it, analyze it, and then try to make a determination as to whether or not we'll have a better game with it or without it.
All right. Don and Dad, Merry Christmas to both of you, and good luck to your teams. You've got big games coming up over this weekend. All right, the NFL today will continue. We got the second half and the Packers and the Giants coming up in just a moment.
We could get our orders
When you talk with Hewlett-Packard about your networking problems, we listen.
Now, why people in the sales office over here can't communicate with the factory? I've already talked to Ford.
Because while we have all the hardware and software, we can't give you a networking solution if we do all the talking. So before we ask, what if, we find out what's wrong.
We need to be cost effective. I have a suggestion. What if I took a look at your manufacturing floor? I could find out.
Sure, the pride is back. Plymouth Sundance and Plymouth Voyager are the proof. Plymouth Sundance, the unbelievable American under $7,800. Sundance, the best value of any car in its class. Versatile Plymouth Voyager, front-wheel drive, car-like handling, spacious Plymouth Voyager. Plymouth's 550 protection plan backs them both.
The pride is back, born in America.
Nobody puts you in the middle of football action like the people at NFL Films, and nobody's hungrier to help aggressive growing companies like theirs than Mid-Atlantic. NFL Films teamed up with the hungry bankers right at the start. When their signals called for a major expansion, the Mid-Atlantic team provided the funding. And whatever financial play they run next, we'll help carry the ball. If you're playing to win, call the hungry bankers at Mid-Atlantic. We're pros.
Experience the supernatural. A TV image so lifelike, it fills the room with its presence. With stereo TV sound and CompuFocus video optics. The Panasonic Omniseries Color TV. It's a phenomenal experience. Mommy! From Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time.